Hello everyone. Google just introduced Gemini 1.5, their latest next generation AI model that they proclaim crushes the competition in a major way. Wait a minute, wasn't it just yesterday, or maybe a week ago, or a month ago, they launched something similar? What was that? Gemini 1.0 Ultra, Gemini 1.0 Pro, Gemini Advanced, Bard? I get it, guys. AI is exploring, and it feels Google is just playing with all these naming conventions. But I guess it's understandable, right? Because we are witnessing a once in a lifetime AI race that's unfolding right in front of our eyes between Google, OpenAI, and others. And we all have a front row seat to witness this history. Google has been playing catch up with respect to their AI offerings, particularly with OpenAI, even though Google was the one which introduced the revolutionary transformer architecture upon which all the foundational and amazing AI models that are being built on today. With Gemini 1.5 though, does Google actually have an edge this time? And maybe the competition has to play catch up. Well, let's cut to the chaos. In this video, I'm going to sort out Google's AI lineup and compare its latest offering, Gemini 1.5, with the contenders and see where exactly it stands. Google's generative AI chatbot is now officially called Gemini. Hopefully, they are finally clear about the name, and there won't be any further rebranding exercises to add to the confusion with the names. Alright, so Gemini is the Google's official name for their AI chatbot offerings, large language models, and also multimodal models. Alright, before I talk about different versions of Gemini that Google has to offer, let me talk briefly about its origins. So Google Gemini was formerly known as Bard. Bard is again a generative AI chatbot developed by Google as a direct response to the meteoric rise of OpenAI's ChatGPT. Bard was released in March 2023 but received mixed responses. Bard was initially based on Lambda family of large language models, and it was later upgraded to the PaLM architecture. Okay, so what happened? Apparently, back in 2021, Google had ChatGPT or maybe GPT-like capabilities, right? Back in 2021 with their Lambda large language models. But they did not release it to the public. They were slow. Again, Google being Google. See, Google has done this quite a number of times, right? I mean, Google has been the pioneer with many revolutionary developments in the field of AI, including the transformer architecture. So transformer architecture is a foundation upon which all the amazing latest AI models, including the GPTs, GPT 1, 2, 3, 4, culminating in ChatGPT are based on. So Google was the one which published the foundational architecture, but Google did not capitalize on it. Again, because being large, they wanted to be conservative, they wanted to be responsible. Well, in the process, other companies, took over and they marched forward with a rapid speed, and Google was left behind. Okay, so sometime back, in Google, there was a senior software engineer who published an Intel memo warning Google that Google was falling behind in the AI arms race, not just to OpenAI, but to independent researchers in open source communities. Okay, so with that, again, Google's management, they woke up and they said, okay, Lambda was not cutting it. I mean, it was good at that time. They were ahead, but they did not capitalize on it, right? But by then it was too late. The Lambda was falling behind. So they upgraded Bard with PaLM architecture, a newer and more powerful large language model from Google. But see, even that was not sufficient. Even with PaLM architecture, reviews of Bard were inferior compared to the ChatGPT offerings. So Bard was released in March 2023, right? So it more or less, right? ChatGPT was superior. So PaLM was also not cutting it. So because of that, finally, December 6, 2023, Google announced Gemini. So it's not just LL, it's a multimodal and more powerful language model, right? And it was touted as the company's largest and most capable AI model. So Gemini was released in December 6, 2023. All right. So Bard, which was initially based on Lambda, from Lambda it got upgraded to the PaLM architecture. And PaLM, once Google had Gemini, which is a multimodal, more powerful LLM, so they upgraded Bard with Gemini. Then they later thought, okay, so however Bard, it's using this Gemini multimodal, most powerful large language model. Why are we still calling it Bard? Why not we just call it Gemini? So that's the rebranding exercise that occurred, I guess, sometime this year in February. So now they're calling Bard as Gemini. So there is no more Bard. Bard is dead, but Gemini is there. It's taken new birth as Gemini, which they believe to be one of the most powerful, largest, and most capable AI model. It's a multimodal model, starting from the scratch. Okay, so that's our Gemini. Okay, but what about the different versions of Gemini? Gemini 1.0 Ultra, Gemini 1.0 Pro. Let me explain. I quickly did some research and put together this table here to compare Google's latest offering, Gemini 1.5, with other AI models. Google proclaims that Gemini 1.5 is their best AI model. So I wanted to see how this stacks up in comparison to other AI models on a very high level. Okay, first let me talk about which model was developed by which company, and also maybe clarify a little bit about the versioning or the different naming convention. Let's first talk about ChatGPT. So ChatGPT is developed by OpenAI. It comes in two versions, a free version and a paid version. So free version of ChatGPT uses GPT 3.5 model. Paid version of ChatGPT uses GPT-4 model. Now there is an upgraded version of GPT-4 model. It's called GPT-4 Turbo. Now I was initially not sure whether ChatGPT uses GPT-4 or GPT-4 Turbo. So when I asked ChatGPT itself as to what it's based on, ChatGPT said it's based on GPT-4. Now when I asked for its context window, now this is where it was a little bit more confusing. So context window for ChatGPT with GPT 3.5 model was 4,000 tokens. When I asked ChatGPT paid version as to what context window it has, it gave me mixed answers. At some point of time, a few days back, I think it even mentioned 8,000 tokens. But today, when I asked it, it again said 4,000 tokens. What exactly is context window here? So context window is a maximum amount of text the model can remember and process at once. So this can include the current prompt and any relevant previous information like earlier parts of the conversation. So that's your context window. So ChatGPT looks like it has the context window, even though it says its context window is only 4,000 tokens. Online people have tested it and looks like the context window for ChatGPT with GPT-4 model is around 32,000 tokens. Whereas GPT-4 Turbo can go up to 128,000 tokens. Okay, so that's about the GPT-4 models. Then we have Claude 2.1, which is developed by Anthropic. So there's a little bit more mystery on this one, but apparently the context window is 200,000 tokens. Okay, now let's come to Google's offering. So again, Google, there's no more Bard. Bard is now called Gemini. So there are two main offerings here, right? The first one, Gemini 1.0, this was launched in December 2023. Okay, so Google Gemini also comes in two versions, a free version and an advanced paid version. Advanced paid version is also like $20 per month. There are some other things like if you subscribe to Google One, you'll get it a little bit cheaper. But basically, you have a free version and you have an advanced version. Okay, so the free version uses Gemini 1.0 Pro, and the paid version uses Gemini 1.0 Ultra. So apparently, the way Google is doing is, as soon as it comes up with some revolutionary breakthrough in its language model, it's going to increase its version number. Like for example, initially it was Gemini 1.0. So now the new version it's calling Gemini 1.5. But within a particular version, it offers three different types of models. So what I'm showing here is the free version, like 1.0 Pro, and the paid version Ultra. There is another thing called Nano, which I think it uses in the mobile devices. So for Gemini 1.0, imagine you have Gemini 1.0 Nano, Gemini 1.0 Pro, Gemini 1.0 Ultra. Okay, so that's the versioning and that's the way they are branding it. So then whatever the new developments happen, like any breakthrough development happens, they're going to give it a new, they upgrade the version number. So now their latest offering, they're calling it as Gemini 1.5. And they just released Gemini 1.5 Pro on a limited basis. Okay, so hopefully we understand the conventions and which model was developed by whom now. All right, so the Gemini 1.5, they haven't released the Ultra or Nano or anything. So they just released Gemini 1.5 Pro on a limited basis to select developers on a for experimental purposes. And this is the biggest breakthrough. So they're calling Gemini 1.5 is their biggest breakthrough, right? Even Gemini 1 was pretty advanced, but Gemini 1.5 is the biggest breakthrough in the sense that the context window, right? Until now, GPT-4 Turbo was around 128,000 tokens, Claude 2.1 around 200,000 tokens. Gemini 1.5 easily beat all that. It can go up to 1 million tokens. And that's amazing. That's amazing. In the next couple of slides, I'm going to show you, how amazing this context window is and what amazing and cool things we can accomplish, with Gemini 1.5. So with respect to the multimodal capabilities, ChatGPT, for example, the GPT 3.5, you can give it text or code. It cannot do images or videos. I tested it today morning as well. Whereas GPT-4, it can work with text or code or images. Same thing goes with the Turbo. Whereas Claude, I think it's mostly text. I'm not sure. If anybody knows, please let me know in the comment section here. Whereas Gemini 1.1, again, being a multimodal model, right from the bottom up, right from the scratch, it was developed as a multimodal model. So it can accept text, code, audio, image, and video. So same thing goes with all Gemini models. All right. Okay. Hopefully this table clarifies, where exactly Gemini 1.5, how exactly it stacks up with other AI models on a very high level. If we want to compare different versions of these AI models with each other, we need to do an apples to apples comparison. For example, if we want to compare ChatGPT free version, which uses GPT 3.5 model, we need to compare it with Google Gemini's free version, which uses Gemini 1.0 Pro model. If we want to compare ChatGPT's paid version, which uses GPT-4 models, we need to compare it with Google Gemini Advanced version, which uses Gemini 1.0 Ultra model. What about Gemini 1.5, its latest AI breakthrough? Well, looks like there is no answer from OpenAI yet to Google Gemini's 1.5. Maybe the rumored GPT-5 could be an answer? We'll see. Now let's go deeper into Gemini 1.0 first to see what exactly Gemini 1.0 can do based on Google's own demos. And then let's jump into Gemini 1.5 to see what exactly their latest breakthrough is accomplishing. Okay, let me quickly explain how to access Google's latest AI offerings. So we go to gemini.google.com. Right? If we go to gemini.google.com, again, we have two options here. Just like ChatGPT, we have a free option and we have a paid option. And as discussed earlier, Google also has two options. So we have a free version, it's just called Gemini, and we have a paid option, it's called Gemini Advanced. Again, Gemini free version uses the Pro 1.0 model pretty much for everyday needs. But for more complex tasks, right, we can use Gemini Advanced for $20 per month. Again, it uses the Ultra 1.0 model, which is their largest and most capable AI model at that time, right? See, right now, Gemini, Google's AI offerings are based on Gemini 1.0. So Gemini 1.5, right, which I just talked about in the previous table, that is not available for public use yet. So it's available, they just released Gemini 1.5. It's available on a very limited uses for select developers. And I guess they can access it in Google AI Studio. I tried, I don't have it here. I only see Gemini 1.0 Pro. I requested access for Gemini 1.5. So once I get it, I can use it. But so as of now, for the public use, all we have is Gemini 1.0. Okay, and we have the free version and we have the paid version. And let's say if you sign up for Gemini Advanced, once you go to gemini.google.com, we have two options here. We can use the free version, right? If you don't have the paid one, or if you upgrade it, you can use the Gemini Advanced, which will get you the Gemini 1.0 Ultra model. Okay. Let's now start looking at Gemini 1.0 model first, and then we're going to jump into Gemini 1.5. Let's talk about Gemini 1.0, which Google proclaimed to be their largest and most capable AI model when they released it on December 6, 2023. Well, maybe it's not their most capable AI model anymore because they just launched Gemini 1.5 3 days ago. Nevertheless, Gemini 1.0 could still be their largest AI model, and let's take a closer look. When Google launched Gemini 1.0, they announced that it's their most flexible model and can efficiently run on everything from data centers to mobile devices. They optimized Gemini 1.0 for three different sizes: Gemini Ultra, Gemini Pro, and Gemini Nano. Gemini Ultra comes with Google Gemini Advanced version of their AI chatbot and is their largest and was the most capable AI model for highly complex tasks at that time, because now we have Gemini 1.5. Then we have Gemini Pro. Gemini Pro is included in Google Gemini's free version of this AI chatbot and is their best model for scaling across a wide range of tasks. Then you have Gemini Nano, which they say is their most efficient model for on-device tasks. Okay, so they launched Gemini 1.0 optimized for three different sizes. What about the performance? Google tested Gemini 1.0 on many different academic benchmarks, especially the performance of Gemini Ultra. They outperformed on 30 of the 32 widely used academic benchmarks. That's pretty amazing. With a score of 90%, Gemini Ultra is the first model to outperform human experts on MMLU benchmark. MMLU stands for Massive Multitask Language Understanding, which uses a combination of 57 subjects such as math, physics, history, law, medicine, ethics for testing both world knowledge and problem-solving abilities. Pretty amazing guys here. Again, you can see here, Google compared the performance of its Gemini Ultra model, with respect to GPT-4 on different benchmarks here. And as you can see here, it has outperformed GPT-4 on almost all of these benchmarks except this HELLASWAG benchmark. So they compared Gemini Ultra's performance on general questions, reasoning, math, code generation, and looks like Gemini Ultra outperformed GPT-4. Pretty amazing. So, but this was again on a range of benchmarks which includes text and coding. What about images, videos, and so on? So that's where the MMMU benchmark comes. This stands for Massive Multidiscipline Multimodal Understanding Benchmarks. So for this again, Google compared their Gemini models with state-of-the-art GPT models for vision, which is GPT-4v. As you can see here, for different benchmarks, whether it's multidiscipline college-level reasoning problems, natural image understanding, OCR, document understanding, mathematical reasoning, English video captioning, video question answering, automatic speech translation, automatic speech recognition. So many different benchmarks, right? Gemini 1.0 outperformed Gemini 4v, which is pretty impressive. Okay, so what they say, why do they have such amazing capabilities? Well, Google says that they have these next generation capabilities because they have built Gemini 1.0 as a ground up multimodal model. What does it mean? Well, they say that many other state-of-the-art models at that time, I guess including referring to GPT models, they are trained on separate components of different modalities and then stitched together to mimic the functionality of multimodality, right? Whereas Google, on the other hand, did it from the ground up. So from the ground up, Gemini 1.0 is a multimodal model. And that's what they say gives them this amazing outperformance compared to other AI models. Okay, let's hear from look at this Google's demo to see exactly how amazing Gemini 1.0 is.
A common problem scientists face is the need to find and use data extracted from the scientific literature. This is difficult because scientists need to search among thousands of scientific papers for key information and extract them by hand. It's a very common workflow and very time-consuming. In fact, some of our scientists at Google DeepMind face this very problem. They use Gemini to help with it because Gemini has an incredible understanding of science. Taylor will explain more.
So we were looking at this study from 2022. The authors had created a data set by reviewing tens of thousands of scientific papers in genetics. They found a few hundred papers that contained the relevant information, extracted it by hand, and collected it in a table. Studies like this can take a lot of time. We needed to update this data set with what's new over the last couple of years. But that's over 200,000 new open access papers added to this domain since 2021. We couldn't do this manually, so we asked Gemini to help us out. First, we needed to filter for relevant scientific papers. We wrote a prompt, just like this one, telling Gemini exactly what to look for. With its advanced reasoning capabilities, Gemini was able to distinguish between papers that were relevant to the study and those that weren't. For the relevant papers, we wrote a similar prompt, asking Gemini to read the paper and extract the key data for us. We could even ask Gemini to add annotations. This showed us exactly where in the paper Gemini found the information. We ran this at scale. And over a lunch break, Gemini read 200,000 papers for us, filtered it down to 250, and extracted their data. So now we have a refreshed version of this data set. But because Gemini is multimodal, not only can it reason about information from text, it can also reason about figures. So let me show you something really neat. With our refreshed data set, we can now ask Gemini to update a graph from the original study. We first gave Gemini a screenshot of this figure. Then we asked it to generate the code required to plot it. And by feeding this code our new data set, we get our updated figure. You can see that this figure now includes data up until 2023.
So Taylor used Gemini to search a large corpus of literature for relevant papers and extract key information from these papers, as well as update figures. Of course, these capabilities can help more than just biologists or even scientists. They extend naturally to any domain that is reliant on large datasets, such as law or finance. So that's what Gemini can make possible. And we are excited to see what you will create with Gemini.
As you have seen, Google's Gemini 1.0 is truly a blessing for researchers and professionals alike across many different disciplines and industries. As you have seen in the demo, Gemini 1.0 was able to quickly comb through a large corpus of literature and identify relevant articles. And among the relevant articles, it was able to quickly identify key information and figures. This task is usually done by researchers manually, usually taking a lot of time. However, Gemini 1.0 just took it to next level. If you are blown away by Gemini 1.0, hold on. Google proclaims that Gemini 1.5 takes it to even higher level. Let's take a look at Gemini 1.5. Let's talk about Gemini 1.5, Google's latest next generation AI model, which was launched just a few days ago. And Google called it a breakthrough in long context understanding across multiple modalities. Gemini 1.5 was launched as a mid-size multimodal model. It was called Gemini 1.5 Pro, and they optimized it to scale for a wide range of tasks. They compared Gemini 1.5 Pro with Gemini 1.0 Ultra and observed that it performs similarly. Now you may ask, what is the deal here? Gemini 1.5 Pro is performing similarly to their previous Gemini 1.0 Ultra. Well, first of all, Gemini 1.5 Pro is a mid-size model, and they are comparing it with their previous version, Gemini 1.0 Ultra model, which was their largest model. So with this latest offering, Gemini 1.5, even their mid-size model is much better, or performing similarly than their previous largest model, Gemini 1.0 Ultra. Google has not released Gemini 1.5 Ultra yet. So we can only imagine that Gemini 1.5 Ultra would be a much more superior model, because Gemini 1.5 Pro is performing similarly with previous Gemini 1.0 Ultra model. So that's a big deal here. And the next biggest breakthrough with Gemini 1.5 is that with respect to the context window. So Google announced that they have reached a breakthrough milestone when it comes to context window. So that's the second deal. And the third one is with Gemini 1.5, it's more efficient to train and serve compared to their previous model. It's more compact, it's more mid-size, so it's much more computationally efficient model. And it's based on a new architecture. So on top of transformer architecture, it also uses an architecture called mixture of experts. So these are the three main things: the biggest, longest context window, more efficient to train and serve, and a newer architecture for Gemini 1.5. Okay, let's look at the context window here to see how big we are talking about. So Google released this one in their demo when they introduced Gemini 1.5, and they compared the context window of Gemini 1.5 Pro with the previous state-of-the-art models. Compared to their own Gemini 1.0 Pro, the context window or the token length was around 32,000 tokens, whereas GPT-4 Turbo was 128,000 tokens, and Cloud 2.1 was 200,000 tokens. And Google just exceeded all of them by the wildest margin, and with Gemini 1.5 Pro, they were able to reach up to 1 million token length. Imagine 1 million token length. Again, a context window is nothing but the maximum amount of text the model can remember and process at once. It includes the current prompt and any relevant previous information, like earlier parts of a conversation, right, in a single chat session. All of this comes under the context window. So imagine a corpus of literature, like thousands and thousands of pages, right? This is all the context window. And Google with Gemini 1.5 was able to increase the context window up to 1 million tokens. Again, to put it in perspective, 1 million token length is equivalent to around 1 hour of video, 11 hours of audio, 30,000 lines of code, 700,000 of words. And in their internal research, they further push the boundaries of this token length or the context window from 1 million to 10 million. So Gemini 1.5, the Pro, it comes with a standard 128,000 token length, similar to GPT-4 Turbo, right? But for select developers and enterprise customers, they can try it, for up to 1 million tokens. But eventually, looks like Google is going to push this, the token length. Again, in internal research, they were able to use context window up to 10 million tokens. Guys, this is unbelievable, revolutionary, mind-blowing, development. Okay, so let's see what exactly this means. What can we really achieve with this kind of context length? So what happens when you increase your context window length? Well, with greater context comes greater capabilities or more amazing, mind-blowing capabilities. But how exactly Google was able to raise the bar, go from 32,000 to almost a million token length or million token context window? Well, let's go to Google's blog. So they recently published an article in which they explained how they achieved this breakthrough. Google's research scientist Nicholas Savinov, he was the lead on the long context project. Their initial goal was to achieve 128,000 tokens in context so that they can match GPT-4 Turbo. But again, Nikolai Savinov thought, hey, we are always trying to play catch up. Why not raise the bar? Why not go up to 1 million tokens? So with this goal in mind, DeepMind's team, they went forward and they started making series of deep learning innovations. There was one breakthrough that led to another and another. And before they realized, they went from 128, they reached 128,000 and they went to 512,000 tokens and then to 1 million tokens. And just recently, within their internal research, they were even able to use 10 million token length. See, that's what happens when you have healthy competition. Okay, so what can Gemini 1.5 do with this amazingly long context window length up to 1 million tokens? Well, they can do complex reasoning with vast amounts of information. So they put here a demo in which they give 402 page transcript from Apollo's mission to the moon. And we can see that Gemini 1.5 uses this to reason about different conversations, events, and details with great accuracy. Okay, so let's take a look at this demo.
This is a demo of long context understanding, an experimental feature in our newest model, Gemini 1.5 Pro. We'll walk through a screen recording of example prompts using a 402-page PDF of the Apollo 11 transcript, which comes out to almost 330,000 tokens. We started by uploading the Apollo PDF into Google AI Studio and asked, find 3 comedic moments, list quotes from this transcript, and emoji. This screen capture is sped up. This timer shows exactly how long it took to process each prompt, and keep in mind that processing times will vary. The model responded with 3 quotes, like this one from Michael Collins, "I'll bet you a cup of coffee on it." If we go back to the transcript, we can see the model found this exact quote and extracted the comedic moment accurately. Then we tested a multimodal prompt. We gave it this drawing of a scene we were thinking of and asked, what moment is this? The model correctly identified it as Neil's first steps on the moon. Notice how we didn't explain what was happening in the drawing. Simple drawings like this are a good way to test if the model can find something based on just a few abstract details. And for the last prompt, we asked the model to cite the timecode of this moment in the transcript. Like all generative models, responses like this won't always be perfect. They can sometimes be a digit or 2 off. But let's look at the model's response here. And when we find this moment in the transcript, we can see that this timecode is correct. These are just a few examples of what's possible with a context window of up to 1 million multimodal tokens in Gemini 1.5 Pro.
Let's look at another demo to witness the mind-blowing reasoning and understanding capabilities of Gemini 1.5 across many different modalities, including video. For example, Gemini 1.5 was given a 44-minute silent Buster Keaton movie, and the model was able to accurately analyze different plot points, events, and even reason the smallest details in the movie that could easily have been missed. Let's take a look.
This is a demo of long context understanding, an experimental feature in our newest model, Gemini 1.5 Pro. We'll walk through a screen recording of example prompts using a 44-minute Buster Keaton film, which comes out to over 600,000 tokens. In Google AI Studio, we uploaded the video and asked, find the moment when a piece of paper is removed from the person's pocket and tell me some key information on it with the timecode. This screen capture is sped up, and this timer shows exactly how long it took to process each prompt. And keep in mind that processing times will vary. The model gave us this response, explaining that the piece of paper is a pawn ticket from Goldman & Company pawnbrokers with the date and cost. And it gave us this timecode 1201. When we pulled up that timecode, we found it was correct. The model had found the exact moment the piece of paper is removed from the person's pocket, and it extracted text accurately. Next, we gave it this drawing of a scene we were thinking of and asked, what is the timecode when this happens? This is an example of a multimodal prompt where we combine text and image in our input. The model returned this timecode, 1534. We pulled that up and found that it was the correct scene. Like all generative models, responses vary and won't always be perfect. But notice how we didn't have to explain what was happening in the drawing. Simple drawings like this are a good way to test if the model can find something based on just a few abstract details, like it did here. These are just a couple examples of what's possible with a context window of up to 1 million multimodal tokens in Gemini 1.5 Pro.
Amazing, isn't it? The benefits of a longer context window doesn't have to be just for text or video or images, right? It can be easily extended to blocks of code. So with Gemini 1.5, now we can give hundreds and thousands of lines of code, and Gemini 1.5 can go through all these blocks of code right in a single context window. It can reason, understand the code, explain to us as to how the code works or parts of how the code works, and even modify the code for us, as this demo Google has shows. I'm gonna give a link to this blog post so that you can look at this demo as well, and you can see how Google Gemini 1.4 completely changed the landscape when it comes to AI models. And I guess this time it really looks like Gemini 1.5 or Google has really given OpenAI a run for its money. At least this round looks like Google has an upper hand with Gemini 1.5. What about performance? Well, as already discussed earlier, Gemini 1.5 Pro performs similarly to previous Gemini 1.0 Ultra model, which was their largest model. And obviously, Gemini 1.5 Pro would be superior compared to the previous Gemini 1.0 Pro, as they shown here that it outperformed on 87% of the benchmarks. If you're interested in knowing more about the performance of Gemini family of AI models, I'm going to attach two excellent links. For example, this first paper is again from Gemini's team, and in this paper, they compare Gemini 1.0 performance with previous state-of-the-art models, including GPT-4 and okay. So let me quickly show here. So if you see here in this paper, you can see the performance of Gemini Ultra model, right? It obviously beat Gemini Pro, which is their base model. So Gemini Ultra is again their premium model for Gemini 1.0. And you can see Gemini Ultra beats pretty much most of the state-of-the-art models, GPT-4 and all that, okay? Now, I have seen see, these are all claims from Google, right? I mean, this is a peer-reviewed published paper, so there is some truth in it. But nevertheless, these are still beating the benchmarks. But what about for the end user, end users like us? So I have looked online to see, I even did my own research and I'm trying to test in more detail. But the preliminary report so far is that it's mixed reviews. Even though on paper, Gemini 1.0 Ultra was beating GPT-4 on many benchmarks, right? As you can see here in this paper. But many users were having mixed results. Sometimes they were saying that Gemini 1.0 was superior to GPT-4, and sometimes not. Most importantly, I think personally, what I'm going to do a more in-depth comparison between Gemini models and GPT-4 models. But in the preliminary testing, what I observed was Gemini Ultra was pretty good, pretty rock solid, compared to ChatGPT with GPT-4. But looked like it's like Gemini Ultra is like this more conservative model, right? More trying to be more responsible, a little bit more conservative, whereas GPT-4 was like this rebel, right, which is more creative, which is a little bit more imagination. See, again, these things, it's all about Google giving a free hand to its model. I feel that Google is trying to intentionally temper limiting the full potential of these models, because again, they want to make sure they do it in the right way. It's a big corporation. I mean, now OpenAI is also a big corporation, and I'm pretty sure they also have a lot of ethics and standards. But at least my opinion was, because of that extra rigidity or rules, it appears sometimes that Gemini Ultra, maybe it's inferior. But again, if the benchmarks are anything to go by, it clearly looks like Google's Gemini has an edge, but this was with Gemini 1.0, right? Again, this paper, it talks about the performance of Gemini 1.0. Now here comes, Gemini 1.5, okay? So they recently released, the moment they unleashed this Gemini 1.5, they introduced this Gemini 1.5, they also published this paper, okay? So in this paper, again, you can see the performance of Gemini 1.5 in more detail, right? With respect to other models and also with respect to other, state-of-the-art models. And we can see that Gemini 1.5 Pro, even though it's a mid-sized model, it performs similarly to its previous large model, Ultra model, right? And obviously, it outperforms, its previous 1.0 Pro model. So this is about the performance of Gemini 1.5 Pro, but I am more interested in knowing from all of you, what do you think? So far, we cannot test Gemini 1.5 Pro. It's available on a limited basis for select developers. I have requested the access. For example, I tried to go to the Google AI Studio to try to access Gemini 1.5 Pro, but I don't have it, so I have requested the access. As soon as I get it, I'm going to test it. So I'm going to do a more thorough, solid review, right? Comparing Gemini's offerings or Google's Gemini's capabilities with ChatGPT and other models, and I will let you know. But in the meanwhile, please feel free to drop comments and let me know what you all think. I personally feel that Google has certainly raised the bar when it comes to Gemini 1.5. Google clearly has an edge here. What they're able to achieve, no other state-of-the-art AI model can currently do. See, what's more impressive is that Gemini 1.5 is able to maintain these high levels of performance even as their context window increases up to million tokens and even 10 million tokens. And even more amazing about their in-context learning skills is that it can learn a completely new skill from the information given in just the prompt without the need for any additional fine-tuning. That is completely insane. Okay, so what do you guys think, right? With this amazingly long context window length, what are the possibilities? I feel that it's all left to one's imagination now, right? Sky is the limit. Whether it's analysis of massive data sets, like for example, combing through colossal amounts of text, data, code, and trying to find subtle patterns or contradictions, right? Which even experts might miss because of the sheer volume. What about hyper-personalized learning experiences? Like maybe using Gemini 1.5 as a writing aid that analyzes years of our blog posts or emails and maybe identifies our common grammatical errors, the way we write, and maybe suggest improvements, right? That suits our writing style. Maybe help us with creative projects that require long-term memory. Maybe help us with advanced code handling. This is mind-blowing. This is amazing. Okay. So that's it. Thank you so much for watching this video. I would love to know what you think. What is your experience when you're trying to analyze Google's Gemini family of models in comparison with GPT models or other models that are out there? Do you feel similar that Google Gemini has an edge here with Gemini? Or, is it still trying to just play catch up and it's only beating, GPT in maybe selected academic benchmarks, but in real life, it's not the case? Whatever the case might be, I would love to know here. I would love to hear from you because this is as exciting as it gets. Each day, some new development is coming. So the war is far from over, right? OpenAI is not going to keep quiet. In fact, we already know that GPT-5 is coming. So I'm very curious to see how that compares with Gemini 1.5 Pro. Okay, stay tuned. Thank you so much.